Hey there, gardeners. It's Bob Tuskin. Bob Tuskin Show. Welcome. Let's start off with a few quick news stories. I was just reading this article before I came on air here. Here's the title. Turkey may expel Israeli ambassador in wake of Gaza flotilla report. So Turkey has been really criticizing Israel about the whole flotilla madness. And the warning comes as a probe into the deadly flotilla raid, and it was leaked to the New York Times. The findings of a UN probe into Israel's deadly raid on a 2010 flotilla to Gaza, which were leaked to the New York Times Thursday, have further raised tensions between Israel and Turkey. And senior foreign ministry officials warned that Turkey could respond to the reports by expelling the Israeli ambassador and scaling back diplomatic relations. I say we scale back all diplomatic relations with Israel. Whether you're from Turkey or anywhere in the world, we should not stand behind any country that commits human rights violations. We would go into Libya, right, because of the supposed Gaddafi regime being such a tyrannical regime, and we did the same for Saddam and the Taliban in Afghanistan. But, oh no, let's not pay attention to what Israel is doing. Clear double standard brought to you by AIPAC and the rest of the Zionist lobbies here in the U.S. Well, check out this story. This is actually from Sanjay Gupta, who, of all people, he's the CNN health guy, is talking about 9/11 and the firefighters responding to their increased risk of cancer. Check this out. Dr. Sanjay Gupta investigates 9/11's toxic dust, what it felt like to breathe it, and he is taking it on, I hope. We'll see if he does a good enough job. Many of you have heard by now that they're not allowing the first responders to be at ground zero for the 10th anniversary coming up. What an outrage that is. Well, anyways, in regards to this health special that they're working on, and we're gearing up to the 10th anniversary here, folks, so here comes all the news. Firefighters exposed to toxic dust and fumes clogging the air after the World Trade Center towers collapsed 10 years ago are more likely to develop cancer, according to a new study. When compared with firefighters who did not work at ground zero, firefighters working the pile were 19% more likely to get a cancer diagnosis. Well, folks, with that being said, for the first hour of tonight's show, at least the first hour, we have a special for you. Many of you have heard by now of this BBC documentary called 9/11 Conspiracy Road Trip that now infamously Charlie Veitch was a part of. Well, they had this comedian, Andrew Maxwell, who believes the official story was a result of Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda and who claims that he's going to take these people on a road trip and try to convince them of the official story. These skeptics, these truthers, if you will. They visit Ground Zero, where the two planes hit the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, home of the vast American Defense Headquarters, and Shanksville in Pennsylvania, where United 93 crashed. Each of them believes different elements of the, quote, conspiracy theories. I'm reading here from the BBC's synopsis of the show. Charlotte, a North London nanny who witnessed the attacks, thinks the American government is responsible. She can't believe the hijackers, barely at a flying school, could have steered jetliners into the Twin Towers with such deadly accuracy. Rodney, a health worker who studied biochemistry, suspects the collapse of the towers was not caused by the planes that went into them, and he wants to get to the bottom of this. And a student, Emily, an active 9/11 Truth member, okay, so we have Charlotte, a North London nanny, as this BBC hit piece is putting it, who witnessed the attacks, thinks the American government is responsible, and I'm sure that's not exactly what she thinks. Obviously, the entire American government could not be involved. It's compartmentalized. I'm sure she understands that, but of course they have to shape this in their normal skewing of things. This is the lamestream media, after all. BBC is no different than the lamestream we have here. And we also have Rodney with us, a health worker who studied biochemistry and suspects the collapse of the towers was not caused by the planes. I doubt he suspects that. Usually when you suspect something, you look into it and you do an investigation using the scientific method. And at this point, I'm sure he's done that and has been able to show that, well, physics are physics, and the collapse of these buildings most obviously were not simply the result of the planes coming down. And then, last but not least, we have Emily with us, an active member of the 9/11 Truth Movement who thinks the U.S. government was forewarned of the attacks and yet ignored the intelligence allowing it to happen. Now, that is a fact. Just look at all the testimony, the Leon Panetta testimony. I mean, the list goes on. So here they are presenting this. And, of course, Charlie, who was also involved, Charlie Veach, and as they put it, is an ex-banker who thinks 9/11 was an excuse for the government to go to war with Iraq. Well, I messaged Charlie. He's been on the show before, and he declined, or he didn't respond, I should say, to coming on the show. And as you know, he's now famous for being the only person in history to take the red pill. Or which one is it? The blue pill, red pill? I always get the two mixed up. Anyways, he's the first person ever to go back to sleep. I mean, how is that possible? Anyways, we'll talk about that with our guest tonight. Charlotte, I'll start off with you. Thank you so much for coming on. And how was it that you became aware of what the real deal is with 9/11?
Oh, it's my pleasure, Bob, and I just want to say thank you for doing this and for doing what you do.
Well, thank you. What woke you up?
Oh God, I think it was actually witnessing it. I had the opportunity to live in America half of my life, and at that time I was in early 20s, believe, and I lived in New Jersey, and I could see the New York skyline, and I'm on my way to work, and my office actually overlooked the New York skyline. So I didn't see the first plane hit, but I did see the second plane hit. And I'm not sure many people saw the first plane hit. The people that did, man, God, blimey, imagine what that felt like. But you know what it was, Bob? It was just a day. It was within an hour of the fact that the tower fell. I thought something is going wrong. And then when WTC 7 fell, I really knew something was up because I just smelled hinky to me, you know.
Did the BBC mention in this 9/11 conspiracy road trip that they made a big boo-boo and reported that it had fallen, 20 minutes, a little bit too soon?
Well, the funny thing about that was actually during my interview to be on the show, I mentioned that in my screen test, and they were taking that to the BBC the next day, and I got on the show. So I don't know. I thought maybe that would actually get me off the show. But I guess I did mention it a few times. We all did. We mentioned it. So I'm not sure if they're going to keep that in the edit, but it was definitely mentioned on my audition and also during the show.
It will be very interesting to see how they edit it. Now, none of you have seen it yet. It's coming out next Thursday, from what I understand. And somebody's going to have to put it on YouTube for us all to see, because sometimes here in the States we're not able to see those BBC films for whatever reason that they put out. Emily, let me go to you. What woke you up to what's going on with 9/11?
For me, I think it was my dad, because my dad has always been speaking about 9/11 and always talks about it. And I guess through him, I sort of learned a lot about the truth about 9/11 and the fact that we were lied to. And I mean, I think like most people, the first film I ever watched about 9/11 was Loose Change. And even though, in my opinion now, it's not the best 9/11 documentary out there, it's definitely one that draws people in. And someone gave it to me at an anti-war demonstration in 2001, 2002, and I was, I think I was about 13, and I watched it, and that was when I first sort of realised.
Wow, at 13 years old you watched it.
Yeah, I did. I was the youngest person on the show.
Well, it says you're active with your university in the 9/11 Truth Movement. How many students are involved?
I don't know where they've got this from, because it isn't correct, but I said to them, I'm an active member of the 9/11 Truth Movement, like, in the sense that there's like a internet-based chat room that I go in where I speak to people, like all sorts of people go in there, from people like Richard Gage and other well-known people.
Oh yeah, on Pal Talk?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And also just like me and my friends have been out flyering before about 9/11 and trying to spread information that way.
All right. So there's no university club of 9/11 truth, because I was going to say that should be a cool club. I would love to join that one, and I doubt that most students are even aware of what's going on. It seems like there's only a handful of people who have really woken up to what's going on. Maybe I'm wrong. It seems like more and more there's people out there saying, hey, there's something wrong here, and that's good. I hope now, 10 years later, we actually get people to say, what's going on here, and not just to forget about it, and not just to continue to accept the lie that's repeated again and again and again. As Hitler says, if you keep repeating that lie again and again and again, eventually it becomes truth. Now, Rodney, it says that you're a health worker who studied biochemistry, and you suspect the towers were not caused by the collapse of the towers was not caused by the planes? No, this can't be.
Well, they asked me to cover nanothermite before we left England, and so that was one of the subjects for me to cover. So they lumped me with all the science. They lumped me as the representative for science.
Yeah. Well, did you mention at any point that there are competent scientists out there that have shown this is the case?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, of course. But they don't want to. They didn't really want to support that. They tried to keep that. They want to keep that in the dark. They don't really want people to know that. So they brought us a PhD student instead, who showed us with thermite that you can't melt steel. But, no one's really arguing that point, that thermite can't melt. Thermite can melt steel anyway. I don't know how he fucked that up, but he managed to do so.
Yeah. Hey, we gotta watch our language, guys. But listen,
sorry.
no problem. I get yelled at by the listeners. They're like, Bob, why do you censor your guests from cursing? I said, look, it's the FCC. If I didn't want to pay the fine, I would be fine. Anyways, but tell me, Rodney, we're coming up to a quick break. In 30 seconds, what woke you up?
Well, 9/11 was dodgy from the start for me. It never looked quite right. And over the years, a lot more evidence came out over time, and good evidence came out. And now there's too much evidence which contradicts the official narrative, and so you have to ask questions and ask for an unbiased inquiry, which is what is required. To ascertain the truth. As simple as that.
It's pretty darn simple. All right, when we get back, I want to get your take on how they crafted this piece, what your experience was, what they put you through, what were some of the things that they showed you, and at some point I'll get you your all individual takes on Charlie and what happened with his whole ordeal. My point with the whole Charlie thing has been, who cares? It's Charlie Beach. He's just another person, and so many people got upset about it, but who cares about Charlie? We're about truth. We'll be right back.